Step in my dojo, you.
Step in my dojo, you.
Step in my.
Oh yeah, welcome to the weekly download. I'm so pumped for today. Today is, for I think a lot of you, is going to be pretty mind-blowing. There's a lot of funny, weird, squirrely little tricks that I have figured out over the years that at the time, a lot of the time when they occurred, that was just through like experimenting and butting my head against a problem. But I've developed a little bag of tricks for solving specific problems in drum beats that I think is going to be really, really handy for you. And I know that it's gonna make a lot of you pretty excited. We're going to learn to isolate and control frequency and time. And we're gonna do some different parallel processing techniques that are going to build up to something pretty crazy. So let's start off with this. I've got the weekly download drum kit here, and this is available in the weekly download. This is an edit of it. I took the offsets off for a second because I just want to hear a super basic drum beat with some problems first. So here's my super basic drum beat with problems. I've got 16th note hats and a kick snare pattern, and it sounds like this. Okay, so first of all, the hi-hats are too loud, so I'm going to turn them down. Okay, so now one of the things that I noticed right away is that snare it has a nice transient and some nice punch and stuff, but it's a bit short, and I want to have some reverb on it. So I'm going to start by going in and getting the good old-fashioned Ableton reverb and putting a reverb on, and let's hear what happens when we put a reverb on a snare. It's going to sound like this. Right? So what's cool about this is it's giving a sense of space, and it's giving us some more action up in the highs that we didn't have before. It's all nice and splashy, but the problem is we're losing a bit of the impact of the drum, and the tail is way too long. So one way that you can reduce ambience is with the reduce ambience in the dynamics, the multi-band dynamics. There's a preset called reduce ambience. This preset is really cool, and it's basically pushing down all the tails of things. So I'll put that after the ambience that we've created, and now we should have some of the beginning of the reverb sound, and then the rest is pushed down. But let's hear what that happens. See how it's like kind of crunchy now, and it's a bit quiet? Right, you hear it's like kind of crackling. Like, it's cool, but it's not quite doing what we want. What we want to do is have a time-based control over the gating on this reverb. So rather than use the reduce ambience preset, which is very cool, I do use it a lot, especially reduce ambience first and then OTT. Well, here, I'll just show you what that sounds like. When you do reduced ambience into OTT, you get something that's like this. It can be very useful on a lot of things, but it's not really working for what we need right now. So I'm going to take that off, and I'm also noticing that this reverb is getting in the way of the transient of the snare. So watch when I turn it off and on. So we want it off of the transient, and we want to ditch the tail of this reverb. We want to control both of those time dimensions. So how can we do this? Okay, well, I'll show you. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to group the reverb, right? And I'm going to make a wet dry. So you Command G to group, which puts it in a rack. Racks used to be called groups, so that's why that's Command G. And then I'm going to drag the reverb. See, it says drop audio effects here in the rack. If I drag that reverb to a new chain, now we have two parallel chains. We've got dry over here, and then we've got reverb over here. Okay, so now that we have a dry chain and a reverb chain, you can kind of balance them against each other a bit more. right? That's cool. We have separate control. If we wanted to EQ it or put any other plugins on the reverb, we could do that. But that's not what we want to do. We want to basically gate just the reverb. So I'm going to put a gate on the reverb, and then let's see what that does when we're trying to bring down the tail. See, this is cool, right? It's giving us a nice effect, but watch what happens if I start adjusting. Most of the heavy lifting in the track is done by this one drum kit. A lot of people will just continuously ignore drum sound design for, like, you know, huge portions of their career, and they'll wonder why their music isn't, like, hitting people right, you know? And it's like, we don't want to hear you play someone else's beat. You know, we want to hear your beat. You know, once you know how to make them, and you understand that it's easy, because it is easy once you do the chorus, then your tracks are going to be so much more expressive, and they're going to have a real authentic texture that is undeniably yours, where you can speak and express yourself through the drums. It's giving us a nice effect, but watch what happens if I start adjusting some of these reverb parameters. See, it's changing the time of the reverb gate, right? What if I want a very predictable amount of time for the reverb gate? What if I want, say, exactly 1/8 note? How would we do that, right? Well, check it out. The gate has a side chain on it. What if we had a musical sound that was 1/16 note long that triggered the side chain? How would we do that? Well, we're going to go over to the snares rack here, and I'm going to make a new chain in the snares rack, and I'm going to go white RX, because I have a sample called White Noise RX that I use for this sort of thing. So I'm going to bring White Noise RX over here, and I'm going to mute the output, and I'm going to call this gate trig, because this is going to trigger a gate. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my MIDI plugins, and I'm going to get a note length plugin and set that to be on sync mode and have it be exactly 1/8 note long. So now we have a 1/8 note long burst of white noise that I'm going to take the velocity sensitivity off, take the filter off. So we have a 1/8 note long burst of white noise with no release time, so it instantly stops. And now I'm going to go to the snares, and I'm going to go to my reverb. I'm going to turn this side chain on and tell it to take it from TWD, Infinite Drum Rack, edit. Oh wait, I gotta say, yeah, gate trig. Gate trig is what I called it. I go over here, and then I'm looking for a gate trig on the right there. It should say gate trig, snares, gate trig, post effects, but not post mixer, right? If it was post mixer, because that white noise is muted, we would not hear it. But if I do post effects, that's before the mute. So now what's going to happen is this 1/16 note or 1/8 note long burst of white noise is going to open this gate. We're not going to hear the white noise, but we are going to hear exactly 1/8 note of reverb. Now, right now you can do shit like compress the fuck out of your reverb like this. Now, if I take the attack up, it'll get it off of the transient, and I'll take the release down so it gets a nice sharp shutdown. Right, put this on high quality if you like. Change some of these parameters on the compressor. Listen to that nice pump. So you effectively have an attack control and a gate of an exact length of time. And then anything that you do to this is going to sit really, really nicely on top of that. So we're going to expand on this same sort of a principle with the side chained gate, but we're going to be doing it in a couple other different ways. So one thing that I love is the Ableton beat repeat effect. In a couple other different ways. So one thing that I love is the Ableton beat repeat effect. Okay, so I'm gonna go get a beat here. I'm just gonna go into my samples and get a beat. Let's use this beat, right? So let's say I have this beat and I'm playing the beat. And I want to get it to sound all glitchy and cool, right? I could take something like this glitch rack that I made over here. Pretty stoked about this rack that I made for today. We'll take this ill glitch rack and put it on here. And then this glitch rack has some things like there's a randomized beat repeat that will change the pattern, and the thing that adds a fill at the end. So if I turn on the chance on the randomized beat repeat, this one is in sixth. So it'll give us 1/6 edits, which sounds like this. So I'm turning. And then this macro represents the percentage of time that happens. Then this fill at the end, let's add a percentage of that. So now 50% of the time there's going to be a little roll at the very end. And you can right? So that shit sounds dope, but you can only really do that to a loop. And like if you have your drums all multi-channeled and stuff, like let's say you want to do like a time stretch to the whole beat or whatever, sometimes you want to be able to just like cut this thing up like a loop, filter it like a loop, do time stretching, do resampling, do all that kind of stuff. And even this kind of a glitch rack is not like, there's still more editing and stuff that you want to do. So sometimes, you know, because you want to be able to treat the beat as a whole, you're in a position where you're chopping up a loop. You've got all of these different glitchy things happening to this loop. But, you know, if let's say you want to do something to the kick or do something to the snare, how do you isolate the sounds inside of a drum loop to be able to do different stuff to them? Right? Well, I'm going to show you. So over here, what I've done is I created this glitch rack, and this glitch rack is just kind of riffing and jamming on this pattern here. And I'm going to slowly introduce the different elements that I added to this. Okay. So the first track is a bunch of glitchy stuff, and this is live 11 only. I'm sorry, guys. This is just like one of those times where I got to do live 11 only because it's necessary. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm going to turn some of these elements on one at a time, and I'll show you one kind of cool thing that I did. I wanted to add some extra highs to this beat. I wanted them to be sharper kind of transients, and I wanted it to be like really percussive and sharp. So I'll show you how I did that. Okay, so here's the normal beat. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait, here, I got to take that off and then take these off. Right? So I wanted to get some more bite up in the highs. So if I turn it on and make it mono first, this is important, and then I'm going to turn the redux on. And watch what happens when I bring the bit depth down on this redux here. I'll solo just the chain we're working on. That is some sick texture. Okay. Okay, so now I want to go and EQ that a little bit so we just have the texture from the highs. Right? I'm going to tighten this up a little bit with a gate. So it's just the snare. So this hybrid reverb, I put it on convolution only, and then I put in a hi-hat sample, and then use this decay parameter to adjust the volume envelope on the impulse response. And when you do that, you get something that sounds like this. And you can open it up a bit. Right? So it's almost like another sound playing along. This is before the hybrid reverb. Right? This is after. So it makes each one of those little clicks of bursts of static that we've made this like gated staticky burst thing. Each one of those clicks is essentially like triggering this kind of hi-hat sample. And now, but it's in a convolution-y way, which means that it's always going to be in phase, and like it's based on the original signal, so it's always going to kind of fit. And now I'm going to put a little bit of erosion afterwards, just to give it that sandy texture. I'll take the threshold down a little. Right? So this bit reduction is reducing it to be like so crunchy, and like each drum hit is just a burst of noise. And then when you take the bits down, there's just no dynamic range. It's only a 2-bit sound. So it's either on or off. So you get this nice switchy gate. Right? So now let's listen to this in the context of the beat. This is it without it. Now this is it with it. Now I'm going to open it up so it's just the snare pretty much.